Hi, I'm Barbara Kipfer. I would love to take you on a tour of my yard. We've lived in this house since 1973, and we started with traditional landscaping that everybody has. And then over the years, I began to discover that there were some real benefits to having some native plants in the yard, and I finally decided to commit the yard to almost all natives. It was a process, one that starts with little baby steps, and then sometimes when you discover how many options you have with native plants versus what you typically have at a nursery, there are so many possibilities to have them in your yard too. So if you're like an enthusiastic gardener, which I think I have been, and discover that, it can be kind of an addictive habit to collect natives and to watch the wonderful things that happen once you do. So this is hard to see, but this is the top of a shrub that's called golden currant. Golden currant, it blooms in the early spring with little yellow flowers, and they are fragrant. They smell heavenly. You can smell them from yards away. Over there where the 9-bark is now, there was a forsythia. And every year at the same time, it bloomed these really showy yellow flowers. Well, the year that these bloomed and that bloomed together, I realized that there were all kinds of insects, butterflies, bees around the golden currant flowers, and there was nothing happening on the forsythia. And I thought, well, that's a shame. That's valuable real estate that forsythia is taking up for the entire year. So once a year, it can have showy flowers that I say, oh, that's pretty. So it had to go. And I replaced it with a 9-bark. I always like to keep some water for the birds, bird baths. I keep a couple of them with fresh water in them. I like herbs, and so this is my herb garden. So I can come out here and pick fresh herbs for our meals. This is part of the yard that's been most dramatically transformed within about the last 4 years. We have rainwater issues in our neighborhood. Our house is actually on a downhill slope off of a plateau, and all the water drains this way, and with big rains we'd have some problems. And so I had a rain garden installed, and with that rain garden came lots more native plants. The serviceberry tree actually has been here much, much longer than the rain garden. It's not looking as good now as it did in the springtime. And springtime was beautiful, had lots of flowers on it, lots of fruit, and it was visited by many birds. The most enjoyable visit was from a flock of cedar waxwings. They would come in, eat in a group, then they'd fly up to the highest branches up there, those trees over there, kind of survey things, and then they fly back down, eat some more. Really, really wonderful show. The violets that we have were a gift of nature. We had violets in our yard, and I like them. I think they're very pretty. They have sweet little flowers in the springtime, and I told the people that were doing our yard mowing, I said, don't whack the violets under the serviceberry. I like having them there. And over time, they became a really nice ground cover. Some of the plants we have in here, a variety of things. We have prairie drop seed, we have swamp milkweed, we have some little loose stem. I have 2 different kinds of native irises. The Coreopsis has gone through one of its first blooms. I probably need to deadhead this and it will bloom some more for the rest of the summer. Culver's root's blooming right now. The blazing star. Royal catchfly. Royal catchfly is one of the few native plants that has red coloring, and so it's a nice addition. You can see a few things buzzing around in here. Now the thing about native plants is they all have their season, and so if you were in the garden in the springtime, you would see entirely different things blooming than you see now. And so this was a spiderwort. It still is. You should have seen it in the springtime. It looks pretty, let's say ugly now, but it was worth it to let it hang around looking like this for the springtime. I have lots and lots of milkweeds. This is the common milkweed, which sends out runners and creates new plants. So it's probably the least desirable choice of milkweed for a yard, but it does very well once it's established. I got this plant because I learned about something called frost flowers. There's a few plants in Missouri that during the first really hard frosts, they will water will ooze from the stems and they'll create these beautiful ribbons of frost. And they're just magically, you have to be up in the morning before the sun comes out to see them, because once the sun hits them, they melt away. Well, this is a plant that does make frost flowers. It's called dittany. It's a mint family member, so it smells really good. And so I can now enjoy some frost flowers in my yard. There's a fritillary on the zinnias. I love zinnias too. They're not native, they're exotic annual, but they're a wonderful addition to a yard. Gives nectar from the time they start blooming and through frost, and provides some different colors and some cutting flowers too. So I enjoy them and the insects, and I've even seen hummingbirds at zinnias. This is a, and I say, shall we go coneflower? I think, yeah. Rebecca submentosa. And actually, I think it's called sweet coneflower, common name, because it does have a little bit of a fragrance that's sweet. And it's a pretty cutting flower as well. The thing about native plants is they come in all sizes and shapes, and some of them are kind of, to me, amusing. And this one amuses me. I don't know why. This is willow sunflower, and it will get a composite yellow flower later this year. So there's always something blooming, changing. You see the different insects, you see the birds, and it's just been, especially during this time when we've been not going out, we've been spending a lot of time sitting on our patio and enjoying all of that.
And you're just about ready to complete your gold certification for the Yard Ethic program?
Oh yes, I think, yeah, we are. We finally applied to the Yard Ethic program, and we meet all of the qualifications for the gold.
We saw of course, a compost bin, and then your rainwater harvesting system.
Yeah, would you like to see me use my rainwater system?
Yeah, that'd be great. Have a demonstration there.
So now I can put water on these coral honeysuckle without having to drag a hose around. And I can put it on the butterfly um, I have a hard time remembering the term for this. This is my butterfly watering spot.
So what kind of resources would you recommend people look for if they're trying to do something like this, or even create a small bed in their backyard with natives? Is there any online resources, local resources?
We are so fortunate in Missouri. We have the Grow Native website. I would send the people to that website first because it not only gives you ideas for different kinds of gardens that you can have in your yard, but also the resources where you can buy them. And you do want to buy locally sourced plants, not from a box store or the ordinary nursery. You really want somebody that specializes in the true native plants that were adapted to this area originally. And we also have some excellent sources for that. I've used 3 different sources primarily for this yard. Is it okay for me to say?
Go for it.
Okay.
Sure.
So one of them is called Ozark Soul, S-O-U-L. It's a husband and wife team, and they don't live in Springfield, but they come to Springfield periodically. You can order their plants online. You can see what's available. Order online, and we'll make arrangements for you to get them. And there is going to be another native plant sale, by the way, in September. There's Smiling Sun Nurseries. Paul Armstrong and his wife run that. In fact, he's the one that did the rain garden creation for us. And then the grandfather of them all, Missouri Wildflower Nurseries, outside of Jefferson City, Missouri, and Merv Wallace has established that. And he has been very, very helpful to the newer growers in the state, helping them learn what they need to know in order to be successful growing native plants. So, we were very lucky to have that. Another resource is the Missouri Botanical Gardens, their Shaw Nature Reserve. They've got a wonderful information online about all kinds of things, like one of them's prairie restoration, one's invasive plant management. Another one is gardening ideas for your yard. So we've got really, really good resources.
So if you had to give like one pro tip to kind of finish this out, what would it be for somebody that's just getting started, wants to do something similar to this in their lawn?
Well, I think you probably want to just start small and let it grow. And a good way to get started sometimes is just to, like, our neighbor next door has a 3-year-old daughter, and they decided that she would enjoy having a butterfly flower bed. So they got a little raised bed started, and they bought plants from Ozark Soul for nectar and for monarch food. So that would be one way to think about it, getting started. Another is if you need to replace anything in your yard, shrub or tree, start looking for the native options. The tree I enjoy so much in the backyard here, serviceberry, came to me because I'd had a Bradford pear and it had gotten damaged in a storm. And when I had it removed, I decided I'd like to see those pretty little white flowers blooming in the early springtime. And ended up with a serviceberry that we've been enjoying for years, and so have the birds and other animals enjoying it too.
Well, Barb, thank you for your time today and for giving us a tour.